Hello and welcome to this Caro-Kann game featuring Dmitry Goltsev with white and Hikaru Nakamura playing black. So he will be playing the Caro-Kann. Now, when I do the game review here, it will erase their names for some reason. So just remember Hikaru Nakamura, one of the top players in the world, will be playing the Caro-Kann with the black pieces. So let's look at this quick game review here. And it looks like Nakamura played 92.1% accuracy rating versus his opponent's 79.1. They both had one great move, and it looks like some inaccuracies on both sides. Two mistakes by Hikaru's opponent and a blunder. So it looks like his opponent did play at a 2950 rating level, which you may not be able to see underneath my image here. But Nakamura played at 3150 rating level, and this is a 3-minute blitz game with 2 seconds added per move. So let's take a look here and see what happens. Let me turn on the analysis. That way we can have the computer assist us and see what these players missed. All right, E4 and Nakamura plays C6, the Caro-Kann. Usually D4 would be played, or one of the knights would develop. So already this game starts off a little differently here with white moving a piece, a pawn, twice in the opening, and usually don't want to do that. That goes against the normal rules. So, the normal chess rules say to develop your pieces and don't move a piece twice in the opening unless you have to. But perhaps because it's a 3-minute game, this was played. So continuing on, we have the normal Caro-Kann move here. But the computer says already that that's an inaccuracy, that D6 would have been even better. So now, capture en passant and recapture, which is best, capturing with the pawn and not the queen. So the game continues with D4, D5, keeping space equal in the center, and now knight to F3, developing maybe. After the bishop is developed, we'll see kingside castling. So the game continues with bishop to d6. And another interesting move here. So right now, instead of developing the pieces, we have this c4 pawn push, trying to undermine, or attack these pawns in the center immediately. So that is ignored. And the knight is just developed, readying kingside castling, and also the knight could capture, or if the pawn captures, this knight will help defend this pawn. So moving on, we have knight adding more pressure here to the d5 pawn, and the game continues with castling by Nakamura. Bishop to d3, aiming at the king side here. Perhaps there could be a possibility of a sacrifice of the bishop, followed up by a knight check and the queen jumping into the game. But let's see what happens here. H6 to immediately stop those ideas. And now we have castling by white and a bishop pin on the knight against the queen. So what does white do here? Immediately puts the question to the bishop. This bishop has to either capture or retreat back. So a retreat, and now we have rook to the open file. A knight is developed, and the game continues with white playing this move, perhaps to keep the bishop out of b5, or to gain space, maybe prepare to gain space on the queen side. So the game continues with knight to f3, which computer says is best, just further developing this knight. And after this move, it looks like it's 0.23 in black's favor, so black has a slight edge here. And the game continues with a pawn push to b4, gaining space. The computer says this is an inaccuracy that swings the game even further in black's favor. And so we continue with a capture of the pawn, recapture by the bishop, which is now lined up on the king here. And then the knight jumps forward. So the best move in the position, white has an isolated queen pawn here. And in these positions, you want to try and trade off material. The more material that is traded off as far as pieces, the less pieces there will be to defend this isolated pawn. And another good strategy is to blockade the isolated pawn with a knight. And so, if this knight is captured, the other knight can jump in there. Although it looks like the bishop could trade off and the pawn would recapture, and they would both be left with isolated pawns. But white would lose the bishop pair. So let's see how this continues. We have all of this being ignored, and instead the bishop just jumps up here, developing, and queen developing, connecting the rooks, aiming down here at the king side. So perhaps if we have a G pawn push, there could be a sacrifice with the queen moving down, checking, and perhaps creating a bishop-queen battery and picking off this knight. So let's see. Although, it looks like that would work. Let's see what happens. Rook to C1. It looks like an okay move. You develop the rook to the half-open file, but the computer says better would be to retreat this bishop all the way back. So then perhaps if you had the pawn thrust that I mentioned earlier, the bishop could jump up here and block any checks and help protect the knight. So the game continues with another rook move that once again looks okay. Moving the rook to the half-open file, but the computer instead prefers this knight move, jumping the knight towards white's king side, and perhaps allowing the other knight to jump in to fortify it. So let's see what happens here. Knight moves forward, and another inaccuracy. So instead, bishop captures on d4 is the preferred move. So let's see how this plays out. We have knight capture, rook captures, and then a bishop retreat. Why is this bishop retreating? Perhaps to allow the rook-queen battery to put pressure on this pawn, or if the capture occurs here, now the queen could capture instead of the pawn, and avoiding a isolated pawn here, and then it would be it's often better to have this pawn here with a piece and then just pile up the pressure on that isolated pawn. So continuing on, we have this thrust that I mentioned earlier, now that the rook is helping protect here, but apparently this is a blunder. So committing a blunder against Hikaru Nakamura is usually not going to end well. So queen to e2, apparently that would be a better move, creating a battery here of queen and rook, maybe readying the other rook to come over to e1 and triple on the open e file. So now we have f4. A missed opportunity here. So apparently, now even with this move, black does stay ahead, but not as much. It looks like knight to f6 immediately attacking the rook would have been a better move. So the game continues. We could take a quick look at that. So if we have this attack on the rook, then what? Let's see here. Um, recommended is knight up to e5, attacking the queen. And then we would have a bishop capture and then rook capture. So something like this. Attack the queen, capture, rook captures, and then bishop takes. So we would have this, capture, queen captures with check, attacking white's queen as well. Oh, and now the computer, excuse me, I made the wrong move, so it would be better to go here. Attacking the central pawn, or excuse me, capturing the central pawn, attacking the bishop, but the bishop is protected by the rook here, but there's the threat of capturing this bishop. So let's see here. Apparently, the best move would be rook to e1. Interesting. Rook to e1 is the best move here. Anyway, I don't want to get off topic. Let's get back to the game. You could look at that position and pause it if you want to study it further. But in the game, we had g4, this blunder, a missed opportunity with the f5 pawn push. And then moving on, we do have the knight to e5 move being played here, attacking the queen. So queen just retreats. And apparently that's the best move to play in this position according to Stockfish. So the Stockfish computer says retreat the queen back, and white continues with a mistake here. Better would be to move to f4 apparently. But, then we could have, the knight cannot capture because it's pinned by this bishop. So rook to f4 would have been a better move, something like this. And then, let's see, bishop takes e5, pawn recaptures, and then capture the g-pawn. The rook is under attack here, so capture. And then, now they don't like this. Okay, so apparently it would be better to let the bishop capture here. And instead, let's see, b5, capture with the h-pawn. But you get the idea. There are different options. So back to the game. We have this mistake, a capture here, breaking up the cover for this king. So now, after recapture, another mistake. The time is kind of dwindling down to a minute and a half. Perhaps white is buckling under the pressure of Hikaru Nakamura, attacking on the king side. So instead of that move, it would have been better to centralize the rook. But now we have bishop captures, rook captures, attacking the bishop here. So the bishop captures the pawn and attacks the queen. So an inaccuracy here. And this is a game-losing move. It jumps to -5 in black's favor here. So better would have been queen over to f1, where it can help maybe guard the king side, prevent this bishop from moving here and the queen coming down with some mating threats. So, if we look at that move, queen to f1, computer says that's best, but there still is bishop to f3, and what then? Oh, now it's even saying king to h8 would be better to remove this pin. So if we go back, king to h8, removing the pin, king up to queen to g2, and now knight to b6. So just attacking the bishop. What now? Bishop all the way to a2. All right, so another possible line that may have been better, but black is still ahead and probably winning. So now it's just really bad. So what do we have here? A capture of the rook. So rook capture. Black is just winning here. So material is being traded. The queen is under attack, so the queen moves, and Nakamura is ahead by what, +3 material wise, and ahead by 5 according to the computer. So the game continues with a rook jumping up to the 7th rank, which is usually a good idea, and instead of worrying about this pawn, we have a counterattack on the queen. That is blocked. The rooks prepare to swing over and harass the king. So the queen just jumps up here, but now we have capture, recapture, a check, and it's not looking good. King into the corner, the only square available, and now check, check again, and it is looking grim. And the final few moves are queen captures with check, the king is running for his life, another check, the king keeps running, and another check. So finally we have the finishing move, mate. So crazy game at the end there, with Hikaru Nakamura just hunting the king and chasing the king all the way, almost up to black's king. And black's king doesn't even need to assist here because of these. Well, yeah, I guess he does need to cover this pawn here so the king can't capture that. But the queen delivers the mate. All right, well, just remember to study master games. If there's an opening you're trying to learn, you can definitely improve your skills in that particular opening by going over games like this played by the masters to see what common themes are played by these great players, and just learn what you should be doing with your pieces in that opening. All right, well, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave any comments that you want. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.